Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. I have to begrudgingly admit, I think you're the first person I've interviewed that has a better beard than me, and it's not a pat on my back, it's a pat on yours.
Well, you obviously have never had Brett Kiesel on your show because he is my beard idol. But I was going to say, I love your beard. I think it's, especially as it starts to get the salt and pepper, it's going to look phenomenal.
I like that. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm debating if I do the kind of comb in just for men or not, but maybe
No,
I
no,
think I'm
I
just
like a
like,
multicolored beard. Multicolored beard's where it's at.
okay, we'll keep that going. But beards aside, lots of great stuff to talk about with the NFL. You know, we're almost through week one outside of tonight's Monday night game. So I just love your initial thoughts on the first week of the season so far.
Yeah, I thought it was awesome. I think everybody was so excited just to have football back. Um, if we look at some of the quarterback performances, I think are on everybody's mind. Tua obviously played lights out, and they had two turnovers in the red zone, so that score could have been even more than what it was. But phenomenal to watch that. And then we have the other end of it, the Bengals and Joe Burrow, Daniel Jones and the Giants. Some real stinkers that got thrown in there. It is just 1 week, but I think a team like Baltimore, I'm really interested in. They didn't necessarily play very well on offense. They're going to have some growing pains, but they're good enough to continue to win some of these games while they're learning this new system. I'll tell you, Zay Flowers, Bijan Robinson, a couple of young guys that came in and played really well, had some highlight plays that were really fun to watch.
So definitely too early to start panicking for a lot of people. Myself as a Giants fan after the stinker last night, nobody should start panicking.
Well, I think the two teams I'm really interested in this year, the Giants and the Vikings. Both squads won a lot of close games last year, a lot of close games, and sometimes that's great. It's a sign of a good team. They're winning these games, but maybe they're not as far ahead as we thought they were. And so the Giants, let's chalk that up to just they got a couple bad breaks early. They had the pick six, they had the kick that got returned for the touchdown, bad weather. But they're not going to be a team that's going to be very good if they're playing behind in these games, especially by a couple scores. That's not how they're built. So hopefully that was just a bad performance. We can move on. I, much like a lot of Giants fans, really believe in Brian Dable. So I think we're going to see better things out of them, or we can just chalk that up to a bad week.
Definitely long season as well too. So plenty of time to change that around. You mentioned some of the young players, and I'd love your thoughts on the young quarterbacks. You know, it's a changing of the guard here. Tom Brady's finally retired, right? And it's the young guys, it's the rookies, and it's some of the guys who are coming out of their rookie contracts, getting these long term big money deals. So I just love your thoughts on the new era of quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, I think the NFL is really excited about it. I think everybody's happy to see this new crop of guys, and really the league's going to be in good shape for a long time. I think it's amazing how NFL ready a lot of these quarterbacks are coming out of college, and part of that is tied to something as simple as growing up now playing 7-on-7 and all the passing that these guys are involved in from a very young age. But talking about the rookies' performances yesterday, Bryce Young, there's going to be growing pains there, but he is so calm in the pocket. That was fun for me to see. Didn't look like it. The stage was too big for him. He played at Alabama, so it shouldn't be. I've always been really impressed with C.J. Stroud, the way the ball comes out of his hand. And then Anthony Richardson, I mean, the dude is a tank. Oh my goodness. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. He got a little banged up at the end of the game. How the season goes for him as he learns when and where to take those hits because he's such a good competitor. And I mean, throw guys in there like Sam Howell, who he started out with. It played decent, didn't have a very good second half. So there's going to be a lot of guys I have my eye on that are really young that are trying to build some of these teams that maybe aren't the best, which is a tough situation for young guys, but they're doing a good job.
We mentioned a lot of the rookies and some of the young guys too, because they're 25, 26. They're still very young. You know, Lamar and Justin Herbert and Burrow, and these guys are getting these long-term big money deals. I know a lot has been made about the running back market and the situation with those guys getting devalued, but it seems quarterbacks are more valuable and getting more money than ever before. So, how much pressure does that put on the individual quarterback as a player, and how much pressure does that put on a team knowing, hey, this is going to be our franchise guy, and we're doubling down and we're committed to him for 5 or 6 years and, 100, $200 million.
Yeah, I think, for these quarterbacks, a lot of them are built for it. It's not, it doesn't put any added pressure because of the pressure they put on themselves. I think it really puts a lot of pressure on these franchises. If you think you have one, then you got to pay them. So Arizona and Kyler Murray is a great example of a guy they didn't want to let get away because the alternative is what? The alternative is going in the draft and trying to find another one. The Giants last year had a great year with Daniel Jones and Brian Dable, and what they did, they had to go out and pay him. And they didn't have to pay him $60 million a year, but they had to pay him 40. That's the going rate right now. So it puts a lot of pressure on these teams to go and find guys. And if they think they have the right one, all of a sudden you're not paying a guy, 10 to $15 million anymore. The mid-level quarterback is going to start seeing about $40 million, which it puts pressure on a franchise.
Does it make you think about maybe I shouldn't have retired? I should get back out there.
No, I was never in that category. I was always a little bit under that dollar value, but people ask me that all the time, just not the, about the money, but just, do you miss it? Do you miss it? And I say, I think 17 years was enough. I had such a great experience. I loved everywhere I was, but to be able to sit at home with my family and watch these games on TV now is pretty cool too.
Yeah, probably a little less painful. You're a little less sore these days than you were during the playing days. And that brings me up to my next question too. I was curious about that transition for you from, being, under center and in the huddle to now in the studio and on the sidelines here, doing the broadcasting and all that with Prime Video. So what's that transition been like for you? And maybe what were some of your biggest learnings from year one?
Yeah, it was so awesome. I wasn't sure how it was going to be last year. I think one of the biggest takeaways for me was just in being able to go to an NFL city and being able to experience everything that goes into an NFL football game, the excitement around town. We'll usually fly in on a Wednesday, do the game Thursday, and fly back Friday. But to be able to experience from that end of it, not flying in as a player, being so focused in the hotel room, meals, walkthroughs, and going to the game, but being able to interact with fans, being able to go to a coffee shop in the morning and just sense the excitement. That part of it was really fun for me. And then just being able to be physically in the stadium to experience it from a different perspective, I really enjoyed that.
That's awesome. You mentioned the perspective and experience and the atmosphere and everything just outside of game day. You're working with Jameson to hopefully bring the NFL to Dublin and bring it to Ireland. So, we saw an amazing atmosphere when Notre Dame was over there a couple weeks ago. So what's it going to take to bring the NFL to Dublin? I know there's games in, Mexico City, London, Munich, a couple coming up in Frankfurt, but, Dublin seems to be the spot to be.
That was a great segue, and that's why you're very good at what you do. But it is. I
I'm
think,
glad somebody thinks that. Thank you.
yeah, I just think pro football is all about the experience, and it's been amazing to see the things that we've done in spreading this game internationally. And for me personally, being able to go over to London and to play in one of those games, and just not just feel the excitement of pro football, but to lend that excitement to other places. I think the next one in line that just makes so much sense. And that's why Jameson and I are unofficially launching this campaign for a pro football game in Dublin, Ireland. What a fun place to be. We've already had football there in college, as you've alluded to. And I just think it's the one that makes sense the most. So we're trying to get people behind this. JamesonSports.com. Tell us that you're interested. Show us what's going on in your lives and why you think that Dublin would be a great place. And if we can get all these people to get behind this and get a pro football game announced before the beginning of next season, we'll just start flying people over there to join us for the game as well.
That sounds pretty cool. So help be part of the cause and then, hopefully get over there and check it out yourself.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do it.
That's great. Obviously it makes sense for Notre Dame to go over there. What NFL teams do you think would make the most sense to have that inaugural game in Dublin?
I don't know that it matters. I think it's such a special sport, and it is for some of these countries. It's definitely grown internationally, but to be able to see the size and the speed of some of these players, I think that it would just be an amazing atmosphere, and for us just to be able to grow and share and spread the game is really one of the biggest goals.
I love that. Yeah, and I was going to say, in terms of the NFL's growth internationally, I know the league has helped teams focus on certain markets. I mentioned some of the cities that they've played in, or they have upcoming games coming over there. I know London's obviously been, such a big spot for the league. But talk about the league's international growth. That, globally football is soccer, but here in the U.S. it's obviously, NFL and American football. But that seems to be changing.
Yeah, and even with it's really cool as at the tail end of my career, creating these spots on the practice squad for international players. I had a guy, Durval Quiros, who is a great friend, but was a great teammate and was a Brazilian uh, football player, just one of the biggest, strongest dudes you'll ever meet, and he could do a backflip. So you have these amazing athletes all over the place that are now getting introduced to the game. And I think, much like in other sports, you're just going to see this continue to grow with football, and we're going to produce an amazing product and some amazing players because of it.
Yeah, definitely. You can't. Did he teach you how to do a backflip, by the way, or is that something you can't do?
Well, he could also jump out of a swimming pool. One of those guys that could jump out of a pool onto the pool deck, and I tried that one a few times, but I couldn't get out. So
Yeah, that seems a little too dangerous for me. Plus, I don't have the lower body, upper body, core, any of that strength to be able to do that. So we'll leave it to the professionals.